Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If becoming a mangaka in One Piece world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 11, The Immortal Drop of Blood. It has been a full day since the disappearance of the husband and wife from the view of the people of Ohara Island, who are now flocking to the art store in droves. Unknown to anyone, the couple celebrated the arrival of their beloved child in a rather wild manner, involving suggestive games all night long. The bed they lay on was too soft to resist, and it would have been a shame not to enjoy it on such a joyous occasion. Thus, Rob's third day on Ohara Island passed by. He was too exhilarated to ask for more, aware that it could harm his immortal heart. Yesterday, Rob's EXP and arc points kept increasing, but eventually, they began to slow down. After all, the residents of Ohara couldn't buy all his manga in just one day. To expedite his plans, Rob contemplated visiting significant places in the pirate world and setting up art stores in those regions. He was pleased with the teleportation capability of his art store, which meant that he wouldn't be late for his wife and could return as soon as the art store building was successfully erected. Rob! Olivia called out to her husband, who snapped out of his thoughts and looked at her with desire. She was naked and held onto him tightly, basking in the safety of his arms. "What's up, my sweetie?" Rob responded with a smile. Olivia voiced her concern. "You're not planning on going back to Captain Roger's crew, are you?" Although Olivia would follow her husband to hell and back, leaving Ohara would still cause her pain due to the attachment she had developed with the place. Rob hadn't thought about it before, but now that she brought it up, he considered the question. In the past, he would have undoubtedly returned to his crew after healing, but he was a different person now. He had a manga to draw and a family to take care of, including a baby girl to raise. He didn't have time to go back to pirating. "No, I'm not going back," Rob answered. "My time with Roger Pirates has already ended. Life has given me a new chance, and I plan to live it with you and Robin." Olivia was surprised and asked, "Really? You're not doing this for me? Isn't someone as strong as you meant to be out at sea?" Rob reassured her, "I'm doing this for myself, for us. My place is with you and our family now." Olivia was secretly thrilled with her husband's decision, but she didn't want to be selfish and destroy his dreams. What if he gave up his dreams for her? The thought of it made her sad. However, Rob reassured her again, "Just because I've chosen to stay with my family doesn't mean I'll give up on my dreams and live a normal life, my sweetie. I'll become a manga's author, and this path is even more dangerous than the path to becoming a pirate king. Without even leaving the land, I'll make the whole world come to me. Are you sure you want to stay by my side, knowing the dangers of the future?" At the moment, Olivia didn't fully understand what her husband was saying, but she would come to understand in the future. Nonetheless, she was resolute in her decision to stand by him, both now and in the future. She hugged him tightly and stole a deep kiss, moaning with pleasure. "Whatever you mean, I'll be with you forever and won't regret it. You're my husband, and I wouldn't be a real woman if I let you give up on your dreams just because of some small challenges in life." The correct answer. Rob was pleased with her answer and bit his tongue before kissing her again. A little of his blood slid down her throat, causing a strange but not unpleasant taste. A few seconds later, her blood boiled hot, but it didn't cause any trouble. She felt the same as a phoenix during nirvana, a sense of rebirth that overwhelmed her. This feeling. Don't worry, I've activated my devil fruit power on you. You'll remain forever young and your life force will increase dramatically. Even if you're bombarded with hundreds of cannons, it'll be difficult for you to die in the future, said Rob, smiling. He had no other choice but to lie to his wife, as he didn't want her to worry. The devil fruit was the best solution to this situation. Before doing it, Rob asked the system about his physical condition and discovered that his blood could make a person semi-immortal. This meant that Olivia could live forever, as long as she wasn't killed. The color of his blood even had a mysterious golden glow, which didn't surprise him. After all, his blood could bring someone back from the brink of death, let alone grant false immortality. It was the least he could do for his wife at the moment. Although he couldn't make her completely immortal like himself, he'd protect her so that she wouldn't get hurt. Is this real? No woman could remain calm and collected upon hearing that they would be forever young and beautiful. Even though Rob only told her about the side effects, she was thrilled. Rob didn't know how she'd react when she learned that she was semi-immortal and could live forever. I am the man who will become the Pirate King. Ha ha ha, you have to defeat a sea monster first. Do you think you're Luffy-san? Of course, I will defeat even a sea king if it appears in front of me. Ha 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 ha, what? Do you think you're Shanks-san now? Seriously? As Rob walked the streets of Ohara City, he heard children playing and pretending to be their favorite manga characters. Seeing their happiness made Rob happy as well. He decided to release the next arc from the manga today and couldn't wait to draw it. Oh look, it's Rob-san. What? Rob-san. Where? He's over there. It really is him. Divine Store Owner-san, please release the next chapter. We want to know where Luffy and Zoro will go after Shell's Town. Not only children, but adults also gathered around Rob. He had become a celebrity in Ohara, captivating the simple inhabitants with his mystery, power, and artistry. In just one day, he had become like Professor Clover in their hearts. That was the scary thing about culture, it could spread like wildfire, bringing down old ideas and rising up new ones. Don't worry, today I'm releasing the second volume. I've already put the release times announcement on the store list, so you can check it out. Rob quickly disappeared from the scene, leaving only the silhouette of his picture behind, as he noticed many women looking at him with love in the crowd. He didn't want his wife to see him in such a dangerous situation. Chapter 12, The Manga King. The number one enemy of the world government. Phew. That was quite exhausting, Rob said. After working for 5 hours straight, he had finally transcribed about 100,000 copies of the first volume. He planned to spread the manga culture in the 4 seas by establishing at least one art store there. Despite his enthusiasm, he knew that no one would care about the story of some child pirates being sold in the 4 seas, at least not yet. In his past life, Rob had been a naturally evil and chaotic person who would steal celebrities' private information and reveal it for fun. However, from the moment he learned about the existence of Little Robin in Olivia's belly, he felt a sudden change in his perspective. He became more aware of the consequences of his actions, especially since he knew that he would eventually become the number one enemy of the world government. Rob believed that he would be the first to hold that title, even ahead of the Pirate King or the leader of the revolutionaries. He saw himself as the Manga King, someone who could draw the future and present it to the world as if he was selling cabbage. However, he knew that such power would make him a target for the rulers of the world, who would want to destroy him. The more he thought about it, the colder his body became. Even though he's immortal and could protect his wife and child from the world government at any cost, Rob knew he couldn't guarantee the safety of his clients if the government decided to launch a global massacre and terrorize people who bought his stories. He realized that if such a thing happened, he would die at the hands of the divine platform without any interference from the world government. This was terrifying, and it made him realize that the game wasn't as easy as he initially thought. Rob knew that he needed to raise the level of the system quickly and quietly without attracting much attention if he wanted to survive. The system and its features were his only hope against the world government, and not just his immortal body. He decided to raise the level of the system and the 4 Cs first so that he could obtain powerful features from the system's advanced levels. Then he could head to the Grand Line and spread his art all over the world. Rob was grateful for his little Robin, as she prevented him from making the foolish decision of opening an art store on the Sabaody archipelago first, which would have exposed his cover quickly. He rearranged his plans and started planning what he should do next. He realized that the divine platform that sent him here wanted to watch something interesting, not just a foolish man walking into danger. If the divine platform hadn't warned him about the consequences of his actions, he would have been just like those fools. Rob was glad that the divine platform gave him real stimulation and motivation to survive. Currently, Rob was in his own section of the art store. He had modified a room so spacious that it could accommodate dozens of ships inside and had chosen it as his inventory space. This room had no doors or windows, and he could only access it through his system, which was what was called the inventory. The new feature of the system was really cool, and the main point was that he could choose an inventory from other art stores and incorporate it into his inventory, so he could always expand it. Subsequently, Rob placed all 100,000 copies of the first volume in the inventory. All the new functions had to do with art stores, and Rob put his hope in the kinds of features he would encounter at level 3, level 4, and the advanced levels. After all, his fate would depend on them. His third day on the island was still far from over, and he noticed that the manga volumes were decreasing at a dizzying rate in just 2 days. He had created 10,000 volumes, but only 7,600 remained, which meant that 2,400 manga volumes were sold in 2 days, and this number was still rising. Since the store could sell on its own, Rob didn't really care about the sales, but he still went back to the store window in the system to keep track of the sales statuses. All this could be displayed in his system. If the customer didn't pay 1,000 beri, they couldn't get the volume off the shelves, no matter how hard they tried to pull it off. But once they left the money on the shelf where the volume was, they could pull it off at that time. The money then teleported to the art store locker and was seamlessly organized into Barry's papers for Rob to pick up. The same with food vending machines and silent room rentals. If the customer didn't leave the corresponding money, they would not benefit from these services, no matter how hard they tried. So Rob didn't even have to take care of the store. He could just rest at home and draw manga. The system was truly divine. He could even withdraw his money from the system as if he were withdrawing it from the bank. It was really convenient, and he would never lack money that way. After noticing that the art store was still very lively and full of people who were accustomed to its delicious coffee in the trendy tavern, Rob finally decided to leave Ohara. This time, his destination was another sea of the 4 seas, South Blue. After saying goodbye to Olivia, Rob ran away from Professor Clover and his group of pesky archaeologists who desperately wanted more One Piece volumes. Under the laughter voices of Olivia and the female archaeologists, Rob spread his angelic wings and flew far south. Leaves fell behind his path and gradually crumbled into nothingness. Everyone who saw his flight scene froze in its beauty. His black and white wings were large, after all. Chapter 13, Batarilla Island. This is really amazing. Wow! The feeling of flying for the first time was simply wonderful for Rob, who was able to experience it thanks to his well-developed devil fruit. As he gazed at the huge red line getting closer and closer, Rob felt in awe. Without hesitation, he soared higher and higher towards the sky, like a bird for which no obstacle could block its way. Rob pierced through the clouds and finally saw the end of the red line. For a moment, he thought he had traveled to planet Mars. Everything was red and desolate on the horizon. In the end, Rob crossed the red line and officially entered the South Sea. Before leaving Ohara, Rob had glanced at a map of the South Blue at the Great Library of Ohara and memorized it by heart, relying on his photographic memory. He also had a magnetic compass showing south from north and east from the west to ensure he wouldn't get lost, as long as he didn't enter the turbulent Grand Line. Well, which place should I choose now? In front of Rob, the blue sea stretched endlessly. This world was really huge, and despite flying at a relatively fast speed, it took him an entire day of non-stop flying or rest to get from West Blue to South Blue. He even started thinking about buying a fighter plane from the system shop that could break the sound barrier and practicing driving it so that he could travel quickly in this world. Just thinking that he had been away from his beloved wife for a whole day now and was still away made him feel pain. Okay, it's decided. I'll go to Batarilla. Batarilla was the home of Portgastilla Rouge, his captain's wife. Well, this wasn't the first time Rob had been to Batarilla. Not the current Rob, but the former Rob, and the Roger pirates had come here a lot. Perhaps if this island didn't exist, Roger would have become a pirate king in a much shorter period of time than the original. As Rob delved deeper into his ancestors' memories, his smile grew bigger. However, the memory of the cruel fate that awaited the captain's gentle wife in the future pierced his heart with sharp pain. Rob had chosen to go to Batarilla Island for 2 reasons: to reunite with his crewmates and to save Portgastilla Rouge from her miserable fate. With armament hockey covering his paper wings, they turned completely black. The immortal blood inside his body erupted in a berserk state, propelling him at breakneck speed in a single line, leaving a black trail behind him. If he collided with someone at his current speed, they would be reduced to dust. South Blue, Batarilla Island. The weather on Batarilla Island was calm that day, just like any other day, as long as that pesky pirates didn't invade the island. But the calmness was about to be shattered from that day forward. A human meteor fell from the sky in a black crescent, unable to stop, and crashed onto the island's beach. The sand was scattered, and the earth was torn apart as a man in tattered clothes emerged from the deep hole that had formed on the shore, sporting a satisfied smile. Although I can't control the brakes well, it's still a good way to travel long distances. Only an immortal like me can use such a very consumptive method of hockey and stamina, he chuckled. Rob was proud of his sharp wit, but his amusement faded as he saw a group of villagers pointing at him with terrified expressions, chanting, "A strange beast. How can such a tall size exist in the world? Why did he fall from the sky without turning into meat paste? I told you he was a beast, but you guys didn't believe me." Only then did Rob notice that his clothes and the last memory of his former body owner had been torn apart during his missile flight since he hadn't protected them with hockey. He quickly retreated into the hole he had come out of and purchased a very high-end Gucci clothing set from the system shop. After confirming that he looked like a real masterpiece, he emerged from the hole again. This time, the villagers' expressions changed from fear to stunned. Rob looked like a model, needing only applause to complete his perfect entrance scene. As Rob strolls through the familiar town, he feels a sense of nostalgia. Memories of his ancestor have left a lasting impact on him, whether he likes it or not. However, he doesn't reject these memories. Since coming to this world, he has viewed his ancestor as a lost half who possesses all the qualities he lacked in his previous life. Therefore, he takes pleasure in his ancestor's memories. Rob's soul now encompasses both good and evil, shyness and courage, strength and weakness, love and hate, and boredom and enthusiasm. In this life, he has become a complete human being. Under the scorching gaze of the townspeople of Batarilla, Rob walked towards the center of town where he would open his new art store. He was not interested in people looking at him because he knew that they would be his dear customers later and would become accustomed to his majestic presence. Little did Rob know that it was his amazing and trendy clothes that were attracting these people. It was their only thought at this moment. "What a great shot," they thought. "Where did this man come from? Is he really from outside of this world, as those who saw him fall from the sky say?" Chapter 14, Level 3 of the system opening the second art store. Ding! Plus 1000 EXP. The art system has been upgraded. Level 3 of the system, 0/5000. Plus 4-dimensional art store. Art stores available to use, January 12th. The compatibility feature has been added to the art store, new. From now on, any living creature can harmonize with your store and its items, regardless of their size. Whether they are a giant, a dwarf, or even a blind person, they can experience your store to the fullest. When a giant or a dwarf enters the art store, it will adjust to their size accordingly. The items they purchase will also be proportional to their size when they exit the store. With the compatibility feature, even gods can become mere mortals in your store. What an amazing feature! As expected, the higher the level of the system, the more authoritarian the features of the art store become. Even blind person can temporarily restore their sight inside the art store under the influence of the compatibility feature. This is simply amazing. Rob is satisfied with the new feature, knowing that even giants and dwarves can become his clients. He can even attract huge sea kings if they want to enter his store. Currently, Rob is in a bar in downtown Batarilla and has already decided to set up his store nearby. However, before doing so, he must first contact the mayor of the town and purchase the land legally. After all, he is no longer a pirate and cannot just take what he wants without consequences. This would damage his reputation as a seasoned investor, and it would not benefit him in the long run. Regarding his first art store in O'Hara, the public garden where he opened it originally belonged to the Great Library. However, Professor Clover refused to accept any money from Rob for the land. In Clover's eyes, as long as Rob continued to create more of One Piece, he wouldn't even care if Rob took another plot of land. After obtaining information about the mayor's house from the female owner of the bar, who was fascinated by his charm, Rob left hastily, unwilling to mingle with these people any longer. Batarilla Island had a great tropical climate, making it an ideal place to live. Along the way, Rob consulted with locals about the mayor's house and was soon led there. He then made a deal with the mayor, a cheerful old man who was surprised at first but quickly became happy to welcome a young investor like Rob. As planned, Rob bought the plot of land from the mayor for 5 million berry, as stated in the contract the two parties signed. And now, it's time for magic. Under the gaze of a small crowd of townspeople, Rob waved his hand, and the void began to shrink and expand rapidly until it turned into an art store identical to the one in O'Hara. Gosh! What just happened? How did such a building appear out of thin air? All the people on the street were deeply surprised by the sudden change in their surroundings. After all, it's not every day they witness such a magical event. Even the mayor was dumbfounded. "Young man, you are a user of the devil fruit ability, aren't you?" Rob looked towards the mayor with a smile and simply nodded in approval. "Ding! Congratulations on opening your second art store. Do you want to keep or modify the original design?" "I'll leave it as is," thought Rob. "Are you interested in purchasing the same items found in your initial store, such as food vending machines, coffee makers, and alcoholic beverages?" "Buy," Rob thought. "Would you like to stock your store shelves with manga volumes?" "Put 10,000 volumes on the shelves and leave the rest in inventory," he added. Using the store window system, Rob made some simple settings before turning around to see the crowd of townspeople growing larger and larger. The storefront beacon was like magic, capable of attracting anyone. With the new compatibility feature boost, even blind people would be attracted to the store this time. Like a moth to a flame. "Hello everyone, I'm Rob," announced the new investor in Batarilla Town. "Don't worry, you can consider me your new neighbor from now on because I've already bought my own plot of land from Ludsan." The mayor. Rob switched to salesman mode and began speaking in a highly persuasive manner, discussing the manga and various other items he would sell. His words were like heavenly music to the simple residents of the town, who were entranced by his charm and the fact that he was a high-level marketer from the 21st century with shares worth billions in big companies, under false names, of course. Rob's irresistible attraction continued as he described his store in such a highly marketable way that stars formed in the eyes of the residents. They were eager to experience the kind of art the Divine Store sold and didn't doubt the veracity of what Rob had said, especially since the shape of the store was something they had never seen before. Chapter 15, The East Blue Saga, Orangetown Arc. Ding! Plus 16 art points received from the merchant Haney. Ding! Plus 11 art points received from the tavern owner, Miss Marissa. Ding! Plus 20 art points received from the child Ali. Ding! Plus 35 art points received from Mayor Ludd. Rob had turned off the notification sounds and was now focusing on his important work. He was currently drawing the second volume of One Piece manga and was just as excited to finish it as he was when he created the first volume. It had already been half a day since Rob successfully opened his second art store in Batarilla. The scene in the art store in Batarilla was just like in O'Hara, packed with enthusiastic people. Fortunately, the store's interior was large enough to accommodate them all. For the people of Batarilla Town, the store was simply divine. The new food vending machines were a novelty, and the chocolatey coffee mugs that the long-nosed machines dispensed with a simple push of a button were a hit. All of this was new and interesting for the villagers who were not used to such modern amenities. Even the people of O'Hara were more modern than them. What intrigued the people the most were the manga volumes that the store sold. The shelves stretched in long rows along an entire section of the Divine Store, which seemed miraculously larger on the inside. The owner, Rob, really didn't do justice to this place when he described it previously. Everyone happily flocked to the store, and those with the money bought at least one manga book. In the span of half a day, the art points and EXP increased dramatically thanks to these wonderful customers. Meanwhile, Rob continued to draw the second volume of One Piece with enthusiasm. The new volume consisted of 14 chapters, extending from Chapter 8 to Chapter 21. The second volume was named the Orangetown Arc or the Buggy Clown Arc. Those who didn't know the legendary Buggy should retire from following One Piece. In this part of the story, Luffy and Zoro arrive at the island of Orangetown without a navigator, but they manage to overcome the difficulties of sailing. They meet Nami, who will become their future crew navigator, and then encounter the clown pirates led by Buggy-sama. This is Luffy's first real opponent in the story, and after a comical fight, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami defeat the Buggy pirates, liberating Orangetown from their tyranny. The arc concluded with the angry townspeople discovering that Luffy and his crew were pirates, causing them to flee while Luffy laughed. Fortunately, the beloved dog Chucho intervened, allowing the crew to escape. The final moments of the arc depict Mayor Boodle expressing his sincere gratitude towards Luffy and his crew. Finally, Rob succeeded in accurately drawing the arc, and he even included elements that the studio added in the anime but were absent in the manga. He was eagerly anticipating the reactions of both Shanks and Buggy, who were still aboard Roger's ship. Perhaps they would consider him crazy, but Rob didn't care about that. He wanted to provoke such thoughts in them. In fact, Rob wished that even the people of the world government would consider him a nuisance. Rob mentions both Shanks and Buggy because the volume includes a small memory of Buggy's tragic past, which Rob had also witnessed. Some time ago, Buggy accidentally ate a devil fruit due to Shanks' sudden scare, which made him unable to swim and ruined his dreams of finding his treasure hidden in the sea. Rob wonders how Buggy will react when he reads about this event in the manga. Perhaps he will think that his older brother Rob is mocking him. The more Rob thinks about it, the more he wants to burst out laughing. By the end of the day, Rob had produced 20,000 copies of the second volume titled The Orangetown Arc. He left 10,000 copies at the Batterilla art store and sent the remaining 10,000 copies through the system to stock the shelves of the Ohara art store. It all seemed to happen like magic. As it was already nighttime, the doors of both stores were closed, and the second volume would only be available for sale starting tomorrow. Rob was excited about how people who were following Luffy's story would react to the second volume. He knew that some readers might develop a dislike for Buggy in their hearts after reading it. Rob was also concerned that his younger brother Buggy might get angry with him for that, but he dismissed the thought and said to himself, "Well, it doesn't matter, now it's time to go back to my wife. Ah! How I miss her." Rob then walked into the teleportation room, and with a quick flash, he activated the teleportation feature. Available destination 1. Do you want to go to O'Hara's art store? Hell, yeah, replied Rob. In less than a second, he disappeared from Batterilla, South Blue, and appeared in O'Hara, West Blue. Chapter 16, Nami, the Darling of the Masses. One Piece Events. Chapter 8, The Thief Nami. /N, a manga chapter. Ha! I'm hungry. Luffy's tongue hung out from the intensity of his hunger. You really don't have any navigation skills. Zoro finally spoke after remaining silent for a long time. Why? In my life, I have only sailed for wandering. Luffy replied. You're just like me because you go after pirates and wanted them. Luffy added. I never said I was a pirate hunter, exclaimed Zoro. I was just looking for a man in the sea. But I lost my way back to my village, he continued. I had no choice, I became a pirate hunter to get some money, which I spent on life supplies. Zoro said loudly. Really? So you were lost, mocked Luffy. Shut up. Now you're the lost one. Zoro exclaimed. Ah, these kids are so funny, chuckled Professor Clover, as he and his group of archaeologists, including Zadie, Roche, Boucherie, and others, enjoyed the first chapters of the much-awaited second book of One Piece manga. Zoro is right. I've never seen a pirate who can't navigate before, commented one of the archaeologists. That boy Zoro really became a pirate hunter because he couldn't go home. How embarrassing, another archaeologist added. Earlier that day, hundreds of people had flooded into the art store like waves, eager to get their hands on the promised release of the second volume, the Orangetown Arc. For these archaeologists, who had spent their lives studying the history of the sea's world, the events of the One Piece manga confirmed that it takes place in their world, specifically in the East Blue. They had already identified Fusha Village on Dawn Island, Shell's Town in the Yotsuba Island region, and Orange Town in the Organ Islands archipelago as being in the East Blue. After all, Fusha Village is famous for being the hometown of the marine hero Monkey D. Garp. And the protagonist of the One Piece story is supposed to be the grandson of Monkey D. Garp. The archaeologists had truly earned their title as they were the only ones who had been able to identify these important locations at the beginning of the One Piece story. This was a fascinating discovery not only for the people of Ohara but also for those in Batarilla, who were equally invested in the story. Meanwhile, Rob was asleep at home, wrapped in a warm and romantic embrace with his wife. However, system notifications kept ringing, indicating that he had earned tens of thousands of ARC points. The accumulation of so many EXP points was bringing him closer to upgrading his system level. While this was great news for Rob, he turned off the notification sounds and returned to enjoying his peaceful sleep, wrapped in his wife's embrace. South Blue, Batarilla Island. The One Piece manga has become the dominant theme on the islands of Batarilla and Ohara, and its popularity has reached a frightening level. Despite the last art store update being 5 days ago, the audience eagerly awaits the next one. The manga's popularity has even spread to neighboring islands, as visitors are drawn to the art store's attraction. The store's miraculous properties, such as restoring sight to the blind, have amazed many people, although the effect is only temporary. Rob has encountered dozens of blind people on both islands who refuse to leave the art store, even sleeping in front of the doors at night and being the first to enter during the day. Rob was left speechless by the blind visitors to the art store, so he allowed them to do as they pleased. As for the current trend, locations featured in the One Piece manga such as Fucha Village, Shell's Town, and Orange Town have become incredibly famous. Many enthusiastic children dream of visiting these places someday. Even adults desire to take a trip to East Blue just to find Nami, despite knowing that she does not actually exist. From the moment Nami first appeared, she became the ultimate idol in the hearts of these modern culture enthusiasts. The goddess Nami had become the thief who stole their hearts. Even after witnessing Nami's deception of pirates at sea, they still wished to be in the position of those wretched pirates so that they too could be deceived. They admired how she could endure Luffy's foolishness and talk to him, despite being so furious that she wanted to hit him. In their hearts, they showed their appreciation for Nami by giving her a thumbs up. Luffy's IQ was so low that it left people speechless. Only someone like Zoro could understand him. Even the menacing clown with the devil fruit ability was reduced to a mere head and 2 feet, thanks to their Nami's actions. After reading the entertaining arc, fans were left with a plethora of questions such as why Nami harbored so much hatred towards pirates? What was the fate of Buggy the Clown and his divided body? What connection did the clown Buggy have with the great pirate, Shanks? And where would Luffy and his crew venture to next? All of these questions left One Piece fans longing for more. They had already fallen in love with the story and were eagerly anticipating its continuation. Ohara. Ding. Plus 136 arc points from Clover. Ding. Plus 50 arc points from Zadie. Ding. Plus 43 arc points from Roche. Ding. Plus 63 arc points from Nico Oren. Ding. Plus 123 arc points from Nico Olivia. Rob recognized the name Nico Oren and realized that this person was his brother-in-law. However, he quickly remembered how his daughter Robin was mistreated by Oren's wife, and decided to suppress the urge to ask his wife about him. Ah, honey, this book is really entertaining. I can't wait to see how Buggy and Shanks will react to their portrayal in this manga, especially Buggy. This manga will make him hate you, laughed Olivia as she dropped the manga volume on her chest while enjoying the comedy arc. It's good that you enjoyed it, sweetie. Come here. Rob beckoned her closer. Ack! You caught me off guard again. I won't let you get away with it this time. Olivia quickly escaped from Rob's embrace and tried to get dressed to leave the room. However, before she could do so, she felt a paper handcuff binding her and pulling her towards Rob once more. I prefer you without clothes, my sweetie. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? It's still early in the morning, you know, Rob whispered warmly in her ear, making Olivia's defenses crumble once again. This little girl Nami is really cute and seems smarter than her age. Why did you create such a character? Would she really be the navigator of Luffy's crew? Olivia asked, intrigued by the One Piece story that Rob had crafted using elements of both fiction and reality. Do you want me to spoil the story for you, Rob teased. Olivia pushed Rob away as he shamelessly played with her breasts and rechecked the manga in her hands. She found the book to be incredibly interesting, and she was probably the only one at the moment who knew that Shanks and Buggy were not fictional characters as everyone believed. Ding! Plus 270 art points from Port Gastille Rouge. Or perhaps, she was not the only one anymore. Chapter 17, Port Gastille Rouge's Worries. Ding! Plus 259 art points from Port Gastille Rouge. Ugh, this day has finally come, Rob inwardly sighed as he extricated himself from his wife's soft breasts and got out of bed. He could already anticipate the kind of reaction that his captain's wife, Port Gastille Rouge, would have after seeing the One Piece manga. What kind of reaction would it be? Rob pondered. Definitely worry and fear that everything she saw is real. Who in the world would want to see her husband's execution, even if it was just a pictorial? Isn't that just a bad omen? In fact, Rob was at a loss as to how to explain this to his captain's wife. Undoubtedly, he would be reprimanded, right? My dear, what happened? Why do you look worried? Rob snapped out of his thoughts and turned around to see his wife's charming body filling his eyes again. Well, I was thinking about how Miss Rouge would react to seeing her husband executed in the manga. What do you think it would be? Rob posed this question to Olivia in order to relieve the tension in his heart. Miss Rouge? Ah, isn't that Captain Roger's wife? I think she'd be really angry. That's a bad omen drawn by my dear. I also wondered about that when I saw it. What kind of grudge do you have against Captain Roger for killing him in the first chapter? Rob's face drained of color after hearing Olivia's words. My dear? Olivia exclaimed in surprise when she saw the color from her husband's face disappear after hearing her words. Ah, that's it. So you really have no grudge against him. It's just a script for creating the greatest story in history, as you say. Well, I believe in you, my dear, no matter what, Olivia said after hearing Rob's attempt to gently convince her. After all, he couldn't tell her that the execution scene was the future and exactly what would happen 4 years from now. If he did, his wife might think he was an idiot, and he didn't know what he would do if she started to suspect him and lost her faith in him. In this world, a person's feelings couldn't be controlled. Any simple mistake could destroy a lot of things. Rob knew that everything he had read so far in those harem novels, where protagonists won the hearts of females, was like buying things here and there. They were nothing but nonsense, complete nonsense, polluting the minds and defying common sense. Hell, a woman's heart is the most mysterious thing in existence. Even if it is a 2D woman, she is still a woman. If you are not careful, you will not have a chance to defend yourself, let alone live a happy married life. Then now, will you help me convince Miss Rouge of this, my dear? Sure, if I don't help my husband, how can I call myself your wife? Olivia, you really are the best. Rob hugged Olivia in another warm embrace, showing his true gratitude. Then, when are we leaving for the South Blue? Olivia asked to get ready for the trip since it would be a long one. Why are you smiling like that? Ah, I have a surprise for you. We can get to Batarilla in an instant, my dear. Ha! South Blue, Batarilla. In the midst of palm trees and banana trees, there was a simple yet colorful wooden house where a beautiful woman with pale blonde hair, a red six-petal flower on the left side, and cute freckles on her face sat. By all accounts, she appeared to be a young and beautiful woman in her 20s. However, she was currently in a state of anxiousness. Having lived alone in a house far from the relatively prosperous town of Batarilla, she was unaware of the significant changes that had taken place on Batarilla Island within a few days. Although she had witnessed the mystery store debut when it opened and had been watching the shining beacon in the sky all day, she had been living a cautious life to avoid any connection to the great pirate Gold Roger. Therefore, she refrained from moving around too much. But when the necessities of life ran out since her last shopping, Rouge had to go out shopping normally. After she finished shopping, her curiosity only increased as she heard more about the divine store from the townspeople. So, she gained the courage to enter this store, and it did not disappoint her. The store was truly divine, and everything in it made her gasp in shock, even though her pretty face did not show any kind of expression. Rouge quickly bought 2 manga books, volumes 1 and 2, and returned home to see the amazing art that the townspeople had been raving about. As she opened the first book, she was so stunned that she could not switch to the next page. She saw a tall, majestic figure with sharp eyes, an amazing mustache, and a red jacket that she had made for him. Wasn't that her husband, Roger? What was he doing here? Sigh. After finishing reading the 2 books, Rouge let out a heavy sigh. From the moment she saw Roger's smile on the execution stage, an indescribable feeling arose in her heart. She knew that smile well. It was the same smile that had won her over and caused her to, as the only daughter of the Portgas family, fall blindly in love and flee from her home with this man. Now, she felt an extremely dangerous feeling rising in her heart every second. And this feeling tells her that this book is not simple at all. Just who in the world is the person who drew this? Chapter 18, The Meeting and Clarification of Confusion. We went from West Blue to South Blue in an instant. Unbelievable, exclaimed Olivia, though she had never been to South Blue before. She could tell they were on a different island as soon as she saw the different people in the art store. Despite the store looking the same, the smiles and happy expressions of the people were also similar, but the people were different from those of O'Hara. If it weren't for this, she wouldn't have thought they had moved at all. Ignoring the angry looks of customers ordering a new volume, Rob left the store with Olivia to visit a certain person on the other side of town. You came here to open your second store when you left for South Blue, said Olivia, her white hair blowing in the warm Batarilla breeze, dressed in trendy clothes bought by Rob. Yes, I was busy composing One Piece chapters and forgot to tell you, replied Rob. He had been drawing advanced volumes for the past 5 days, leaving him plenty of leisure time to spend with his wife. He planned to sell the volumes as they were published each week, as his inventory was already full of new volumes. During these past few days, he had been contemplating whether to open his third art store in North Blue or East Blue. Ultimately, he decided on North Blue as it was the closest destination and opted to leave East Blue for last to avoid any early difficulties. After all, East Blue is considered the source of all evil in this world, and this is not a joke, Rob thought. As Olivia and Rob made their way to the other side of Batarilla Island, they discussed how to approach Rouge and how to interpret the event of Roger's execution in a way that would dispel any confusion and negative emotions. They realized they were not very familiar with the other side and particularly Olivia, so they decided to create the perfect atmosphere for a serious conversation. Unexpected visitors arrived at the wooden house, which was accustomed to solitude and nature. Rouge was surprised to see Rob at her front door and initially thought that her husband was there as well. Roger used to visit her with a few of his crew regularly, and she knew all of them, including Rob. Although slightly disappointed to find out that only Rob and his wife had come to visit her this time, she quickly dismissed those thoughts. After all, Rob was her husband's mate, and it would be disrespectful to show any signs of disappointment to her guests. As they sat in the simple guest room, Rob noticed the first volume of One Piece open on the table, which was at the same part as Roger's execution. Rouge brought tea for Rob and Olivia, and they accepted it with a smile. She inwardly sighed with relief, realizing it was a good thing she had gone shopping recently, as otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to offer them any tea. Ah, so you left the crew to live a happy married life. I'm really jealous of Sister Olivia for her luck. If only we could have the same luck, said Rouge with a hint of envy in her voice. Ha, excuse my manners. Don't take my words seriously. After all, Captain Roger's responsibility cannot be compared to that of a crew member, she added with a smile. No need to apologize, Rouge-san. I understand how you feel, and I think my wife will too, said Rob before he could say more. Olivia nodded with a gentle smile, showing her complete understanding. She knew that if the roles were reversed, she would feel the same way. As a woman, Olivia knew that every woman in the world wanted to live with the man they loved and dedicate everything to them. In the case of Rouge, it was even more painful. She lived alone in a house far from the world, and her only concern was when her husband would return from the sea. Knowing that each visit stretched from months to years was tormenting for her. Now that Olivia had tasted the sweetness of love and a happy married life, she couldn't imagine living without it for long periods. Though she could be patient if she was forced to, her innate desire to live a happy life could not be erased. In fact, I was also forced to leave the crew. I was diagnosed with a fatal illness at the time. I didn't have much time to continue the pleasant journey with the captain, said Rob with a sad smile. Olivia was the missing light from my life without which my life would not be perfect. So I chose to live the little time I had left with her, Rob continued. Olivia squeezed Rob's hand hard, showing the worry that was redigging in her heart. You? Said Rouge, shocked. But before she could express her deepest regret, Rob interrupted her. Don't worry. I found a cure for my condition recently, so I'm already cured. But the crew doesn't know that, except for me and Olivia. You're the third person to know this, Rob reassured Rouge. It's really reassuring, Rob-san. It's good to hear that you're doing well. You've really relieved me. I'm so happy for you, said Rouge, smiling. Thank you, Rouge-san. It's really surprising how much fun your real personality is, considering how shy you were in the past few years, remarked Rouge with a smile. Ha, his character is really great, isn't it, Sister Rouge, said Olivia, joining in on the laughter. Ha, yes, it reminds me a bit of my husband, replied Rouge with a fond smile. The pleasant conversation between the three continued to improve, and their feelings of affection for each other deepened. It could be said that they became good friends. Rob-san, I didn't expect you to be the one who drew this. I mean, I saw the name of the owner of that art store, but I didn't associate it with you at all. That's a really big surprise, said Rouge. Rob and Olivia could see the light dim a little in Rouge's eyes after hearing Rob's explanation of it all. That dim light was a mixture of feelings of confusion, fear, anxiety, and even curiosity. Yes, Rouge-san, we will be good neighbors from now on. Since you had no friends before, I think my wife here would be happy to become the friend you need, right, my dear? Rob gave Olivia the green light to intervene at this moment. Yes, darling, we have become really good friends. Don't you see? Olivia approached Rouge, sat next to her, and lovingly hugged her like a true friend. As Rob said before, he wishes for a better future than the one he paints in the depths of his heart. I believe he intends no harm to your husband deep down, even. Do you guys think I'm mad at something as trivial as this? Even Roger himself, when he sees this book, I'm sure he'll laugh with his usual laugh and forget about it as if it doesn't matter. He won't even need to ask you about this, Rob-san, because he trusts his comrades more than himself, or do you not know this better than me, considering that you have already traveled with Captain Roger on the same ship, said Rouge, laughing. I can hear your true thoughts, Rob-san. I know you don't hate the captain and wish him a bright future in your heart. No need to try to justify your actions to me, she added. Rob and Olivia, who were willing to take the consequences all this time, were surprised by the dramatic change in Rouge's mood. It seemed as if it had switched from night to day. But what Rob and Olivia didn't notice was that Rouge was shivering inwardly at the confirmation of the horrific truth she had now due to her innate ability, the voice of all things. Chapter 19, Heavy Voices Crushing the Soul. Since he arrived in this world as Nico Olivia's husband and Nico Robin's father, Rob has been living in a state of confusion. Although he conceals it well, his aura is constantly in chaos. In an abnormal state, it seemed as if he were not an ordinary human, capable of maintaining his thoughts intact, but rather like an inanimate object, or a tree, something that could easily pick up the frequencies of his thoughts by users of the powerful observation hockey and the rare type of voice of all things in this world. Were it not for his photographic memory, which collects billions of thoughts in his head and keeps everything balanced, he would have collapsed long ago. But this could not be hidden from a user of the voice of all things like Portgastille Rouge. The moment her ability activated, she collided with mountains of tormenting thoughts that nearly made her mind explode. He thought about what kind of fate he was going to draw that would touch even his family members, causing him anxiety all the time. In fact, Rob began to regret setting such a heavy goal in this world. Yes, he had taken an extremely heavy goal upon his shoulders, and he did not know how big it was until this moment. Drawing the story of the world of One Piece that did not end even in his previous world, Rob was literally courting death. At night, when he sleeps next to his wife, he gets into a stark argument with himself about whether to continue what he's doing and live a tortured life, or stop it and wait for the gods' punishment. So far, all is well. After all, the Straw Hat Crew's journey to wreak havoc on the world is still in its infancy. They have not yet entered the Grand Line, and everything is still just fun. They have not yet entered the stage of telling the facts of the world. But Rob still feels heavy emotions restricting his soul. If only he had chosen a specific embodiment at the time, why did he have to ask for a random embodiment? If he were alone, he would be a real demon who doesn't care about anyone. He could draw manga and sell them like vegetables cheaply and let the world know the future. Why the hell would he care about anything else if he were alone? But it seemed that the gods who sent him here did not want to create a demon that would only destroy the balance of the world. Although they wanted him to enjoy a different and intertwined scenario, they did not want to create unresolved chaos in this world. A world likely only one of the millions of parallel worlds out there. They probably wouldn't care if one of these infinite worlds were destroyed, just as they wouldn't care about specks of dust. But their prestige as deities would be lost if that were to happen. So, for the sake of balance, they decided to make this little demon feel love for the first time. This should do the trick. After Rob and Olivia left, Rouge fell to the ground, panting and perspiring profusely, her breathing becoming heavy. The strong facade she had put on in front of Rob and Olivia had completely collapsed. Just who is this person in the world? Why does he seem to have the history, present, and future of the world on his back? Rouge's mastery of the voice of all things ability was not as advanced as Roger's, although it was still powerful, it was weaker than Roger's. The moment she used her ability to figure out what kind of person the real Rob was, she was shocked by billions of thoughts, like heavy mountains. If she hadn't had a strong will, she would have collapsed in front of the duo. Just the memory of those thoughts, each seeming like a world of their own, made Rouge shiver. She had never heard such voices before in her life. They sounded like forbidden voices that could not be heard because they were against the laws of the world. All she could understand was that Rob did not harbor any hatred for her or her husband, but he was sure that their future fate would not be good. Even their unborn child would be doomed, and is there a fate worse than death? Whenever Rouge recalled the disjointed parts she had picked up from those forbidden voices, she felt terror freeze her blood. This can't be real, she thought. But why does his wife's fate not differ from mine? Why would he want to write about such a terrible future? Why does it seem like he has no choice? And why does he want to protect me from that fate? Rob, did you notice that? Olivia asked. Yes, she can't hide it well after all, Rob replied. Olivia then asked, should we go back and check on her? Don't worry, it looks like she's only slightly traumatized, Rob reassured her. They were on their way back to the art store in order to move to O'Hara. They had been discussing Rouge's condition, which seemed shaky at the end of their meeting. Rob knew it would be difficult for her to accept it, but he hoped it would help her come to terms with her future husband's death. Rob knew he could save Roger from death by giving him a drop of his immortal blood, but he was sure Roger would refuse. The truth buried on the final island had to be revealed through Roger's death, and no matter how Rob tried to convince him not to die, Roger would still want to die the same way as in the manga. Rob understood the fate that the manga king had to endure, a fate that no one else knew about in this world. At this time, the system announced, ding! Plus 5,000 EXP. Congratulations on upgrading the system. Chapter 20, Flevance Island. The entrance fee to the city is 100 berry for a week, sir. You can pay at that location over there, said someone. Rob stopped in front of the city gates that were blocked by the guards. Okay. He followed the guard's signal and paid 100 berry before obtaining information on how to obtain permanent residency papers from the accounting office. The accountant informed him that there were 2 ways to obtain residency papers. The direct method of paying 10 million berry to the royal family or the indirect method of working with the royal family as a merchant for 5 years. We wish you a pleasant stay, sir, the guard said as Rob shook his head in disbelief at the city's greed. Rob then entered the White City, also known as the Fantasy City from a snowy country in a fairy tale. He wandered around for a few hours before deciding on his next course of action. If Rob hadn't known the reality of this place, he too would have fallen in love with it like any new tourist here. Outwardly, the city appeared to be a white paradise, completely paved with white marble and looking like a pure paradise. The people dressed in the best clothes with happy and carefree smiles on their faces. The city was extremely wealthy, with no poor people in sight, thanks to the endless treasures within it. Lead Amber. Rob shook his head once again as he remembered the tragic fate of this place. As Rob sat in the best restaurant in Flevance, he couldn't help but think that this was the home of Trafalgar Law, the future member of the worst generation. Despite the city's contamination with amber lead, Rob didn't mind trying out the local cuisine. After his meal, he visited a government facility to apply for a meeting with the royal family. He planned to set up his art store in the city and was willing to pay the exorbitant fee of 10 million Bari for residency papers and property. Knowing that the rich are treated well, Rob was not surprised when the civil servant's arrogant demeanor changed to a humble one upon hearing about his intentions to buy residency papers from the royal family. The royal family was promptly informed, and an appointment was scheduled for the next day. Rob spent another day separated from his wife and stayed overnight in the best hotel in the kingdom. The following morning, Rob met with a member of the royal family, paid 10 million Bari, and signed the residency papers. He could now live in Flevance indefinitely if he chose to do so. After that, it was not difficult for him to purchase commercial property from the royal family. Now everything was in place for him to establish his third art store. He had selected this location because he believed there was no other place in the North Blue that was as suitable for an art store as this kingdom. Even if he didn't plan on entering the Grand Line anytime soon, he still wanted his manga to be known throughout the four seas. This island in the North Blue is one of the most renowned tourist destinations, attracting visitors from far and wide. The White City alone is home to over 500,000 citizens, not counting the surrounding towns and villages. The wealth of the inhabitants makes them more receptive to new and exciting things like Rob's art store. The new feature he acquired from leveling up, the protection field, also helped him regain some of the courage he had lost before. The protection field ensures that the land where the art store is situated remains indestructible, making Rob less worried about the world government using the Buster Call to threaten him. He had been eagerly waiting for this kind of feature. Now it's time for some magic, said Rob with a smile. However, no one on the street paid him any attention at the moment as they were all busy with their own work. However, when the void began to distort and the art store building emerged out of thin air, the passers-by stopped in their tracks, surprised to see the strange yet modern building appearing from nowhere. The people around the art store were in absolute amazement and shock at the strange phenomenon happening before them. Even those who were indoors came out to witness it. A growing number of people gathered around the store, not just residents of Flevance, but also tourists from different parts of the North Blue and other seas. The kingdom's reputation had attracted people from all over the world. "Hello, dear residents of Flevance," began Rob, introducing himself to the crowd. "I'm Rob, a new resident of your prosperous kingdom and the proud owner of this new store. You can consider me as an investor. What I'm selling is art." Rob launched into his typical speech, and unsurprisingly, he managed to present himself and his project in the best possible way to the crowd. The people listening to Rob's speech had gleaming eyes, and the more they heard, the more they wanted to enter the store. Rob's miraculous appearance was enough to make them believe every word he said. Now that Rob had chosen this place as the base for his art store, they would not suffer the same fate. It could be said that these people, just like the O'Hara people, did not yet know what kind of existence was sent to save them from a very bad fate. Among the happy crowd entering the store, Rob did not notice two familiar figures, a husband and wife still dressed as a doctor and nurse. That wraps up this part of What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.